Good morning, cozy friends. How we doing? As I continue to get more comfortable in filming myself, doing YouTube, figuring out what I want this channel to be, I thought today's video would be a great opportunity for you to get to know me a little bit better. And obviously a big part of my life and streaming and this channel is gonna be centered around gaming, so I wrote down a list of around 5 games that are my personal favorite from any point in my life. And trust me, I know it's a big undertaking to pick just 5 games from my whole life as my favorite, but I've tried to pick games either from my childhood or even recently that have really made a mark on me or that I consistently go back to. So without any further ado, let's gab about some games. So when I was creating this list, I tried to go back and think of not only the games that come to mind that you probably all know me for, but also games from my childhood that really made an impact on me. Whether it was the memories that came with them, the stories that were told in the games, the gameplay itself, or maybe just because it's nostalgic for me. And I feel like one of the ones that does that from way back when in my childhood is the first Kingdom Hearts game. Now I know that Kingdom Hearts recently, especially with Kingdom Hearts 3, has kind of weaved its way into the general gaming space, but for those who don't know, it is quite literally Final Fantasy meets Disney. And look, I don't know what execs were in an elevator tossing ideas around whoever made this happen. I like you. Funny enough too, when I initially got this game, I got it as a birthday present from one of my friends, I think in elementary school. They told me later that they didn't know anything about the game and that they just picked it up because it looked fun. And loved those vibes. And with them not really knowing anything about the game, with me and my older brothers primarily playing Nintendo games when we were growing up, we didn't know what we were in for, but I'm so glad that this friend randomly grabbed this game. Because in it, you play as Sora, who grows up on Destiny Islands with 2 of the other main characters in the story, and they're getting ready to go off on this big adventure, talking about the world, talking about their place in it, very existential stuff. When suddenly these creepy and dark creatures come out of a portal, because of course they do, to only ruin Sora's day. And basically TLDR of what happens after that is that Sora meets Donald and Goofy, the Donald and Goofy from Disney, and goes around to different Disney movie worlds to try to defeat those little creatures called the Heartless. Now y'all, if you know anything about the Kingdom Hearts series, you know the story is about 18 times more difficult to understand than that. But I think that's what drew me in when I first started playing it, is that I didn't really grow up with cozy games or what we know of now as cozy games, but I always loved playing the games where there was dialogue, there was story, there was characters, there was world building. Any part of that really just hooked me right from the start. So for little 6-year-old me to have a fighting game that also has Disney, that also has story, that also has world building, that I could play with my older brothers, or maybe also just watch them because they were way better at the game than me, made for some really amazing memories. In thinking about what game I wanted to put next on this list, I obviously had to include a Nintendo one, because growing up and even still now, I'm a Nintendo fanboy at heart. Anything they come out with, any game that they release, I am all ears. And so the next one is Super Mario Odyssey. Now, being a Nintendo fanboy growing up and also having 2 older brothers that really liked platformers, I always played the old Mario games like Mario 64, Mario Galaxy 2, all of those that come to mind. So back in 2016 or 2017, when Super Mario Odyssey was announced, I was so hype. I watched all the trailers, all the breakdowns of the trailers from other content creators, any piece of evidence that I could get my hands on for this game, I was scouring the internet. And when this game first came out, I remember I played it for so many hours during the day, when I definitely maybe was supposed to be doing homework in college. But there's so many amazing things that I could say about this game. From the level design, from the characters, from the bosses, from whatever else, I think what really stuck with me are 2 things. The movement that Mario has in this game and the sheer amount of collectibles that are hidden within this game. If you've never played Super Mario Odyssey, you probably think of other Mario games where he can jump, maybe do a triple jump, maybe do a backflip, and that's about it. But y'all, Mario turns into a gymnast in this game. You can do a triple jump, you can dive onto your little cap that you have throughout this game, you can throw it up, you can throw it sideways, you can throw it around you. It is insane the amount of things that you can do in this game with Mario. And like, definitely after you watch this video, of course, go look up just a Super Mario Odyssey speedrun. It will blow your mind the things that they can do in that game. But going to a second point, I love the amount of collectibles that are in this game. The main thing that you're tasked with getting is moons. That way you can power up your ship, do all the good things, visit new worlds, and save the day, as you would in a Mario game. But in any given world in this game, there are probably 40 or 50 moons that you can find. So when being fully obsessed in this game when it first came out, having the opportunity just to log in real quick, play like maybe 5 or 10 minutes in between classes or meeting up with friends, get a few moons and feel accomplished felt amazing. And Mario Odyssey is definitely one that I go back to every few months, just to either play an old file, restart a new game, or complete a new game. And every time I do, it really just transports me back to that time when I first really dove into that game. Alright, between the second and the third game on this list, I did take a slight break. It was like 5 seconds for you, maybe a couple hours for me, because actually Mama Legolas came up today in the flesh to take me out to lunch. It's always so much fun when one of my family members or my friends come up, but y'all, Colorado is on something else. I'm wiping my eye because the allergies the past couple days have been so bad. Like, I'm so glad that we're getting spring weather finally, but like, at what cost does that spring weather come with, you know? Anyway, let's get back to the list, and number 3 is one that I'm currently playing almost every day because it just came out with an update, and it is the one, the only, the one that you saw coming, Stardew Valley. Now, I feel like for me, farming sims kind of come and go whenever I'm feeling like I need one, but I really can only focus on one at a time. And before I found Stardew Valley, that one game was usually like Animal Crossing or something like that. But I feel like Stardew Valley was one of those games when I first was getting into it, which, by the way, Tori was the one who got me into it. That might be a theme on these next few games in this list. But I feel like I just found it at the perfect time, because Stardew Valley itself has been out for like 8 years, I think, right now. And I found it smack dab in the middle of the pandemic when Tori was like, hey, there's a little farming game that you should try. And of course, I was obsessed. But at the time that I picked it up, I was not working, so I was looking for a job. It was in the middle of the pandemic, so I really couldn't go anywhere. So I spent probably 30 or 40 hours a week just grinding out Stardew, learning all that I can, watching YouTubers on it, watching content creators on it, just really diving in head first to that game, and I've never looked back. Like, putting the art style, the farming, the crafting, the fighting, any of that aside, the fact that this was made by one person absolutely blew my mind, and made me have like a closer connection to the game, knowing that one person really put all their time into this. And now that the new 1.6 update is finally out, it really feels like I'm recapturing this game like that first time that I played it. Like, finding all the new items, all the new secrets, all the new NPC dialogues, all of that has just been so much fun to go back to. I did warn you that the next game on this list, and probably the next one after that, would be one that Tori introduced me to, so we're keeping with that theme, and the next one being Animal Crossing, specifically Animal Crossing New Horizons. And the reason I chose one specific game is because before Tori got me into it, I hadn't played any other game apart from New Leaf, so it just didn't feel right to put the entire series as one of the games on my list. But yeah, so way back when, probably when we were like, gosh, like 12 or 13, Tori, again, was like, hey, you know what'd be really cool? This cute little farming, like, life sim game. And as I talked about earlier in the video, like, I grew up with 2 brothers. Not to say that we couldn't play those type of games, because I love those type of games, but those games weren't really the ones that they were interested in, so of course I wasn't interested in. But I just have such fond memories of when Tori and I were either sleeping over or hanging out with each other that we would play New Leaf for hours upon hours upon hours. And while it was really hard to choose between New Leaf and New Horizons, I think I chose New Horizons just because the amount of hype that I felt for this game. And I know I'm not alone in that hype. I mean, it was one of the biggest games of 2020 with the pandemic and with the hype of it. But New Horizons, similar to Odyssey, but in such a more intense way, had me looking through every single video, every single trailer, so many times through. Like, I remember being on the internet when those videos were coming out, and oh my gosh, people were picking apart every single thing. Like, I have this vivid memory of me sending a screenshot to Tori with the kneecaps of the players. the specific kneecaps and how they were more detailed, and everyone was losing their mind. So like, if that gives you any insight into how badly I wanted this game, it's that. And now, as much as we can talk about, and I know I've talked about it and we can probably talk about it in its own video if we wanted to, on how this game was maybe robbed of how many updates it got. When this game first came out, I just remember Tori and I kind of going back to those days when we would play New Leaf and sending each other screenshots, asking each other questions, going over to each other's islands. Like, it was just such a pure time. And with it being in the middle of a pandemic, it was just such a time where everyone in the gaming community and even outside of the gaming community came together and just enjoyed this little game, like slice of paradise, if you will. And it's just one that every time I see a video on social media, a video on YouTube, like maybe a screenshot from my own game, it just fills me with so much warmth and joy and makes me want to go back to it again. All right, y'all, we made it to the last one on this list. And I'll be honest, when making this list, the 4 that I've already mentioned kind of came the most quickly, you know, like Stardew, obviously, Animal Crossing, obviously. But when trying to think of a 5th, it was so hard to choose, like, what criteria do I go with? Like, do I go with the childhood memory? Do I go with a memory from Tori? Do I go with one that I really like the story? Like, there's so much that goes into each one of these picks that I hope you understand. There's so many other games that I've played and loved, but I think it's more like the community aspect of it, or the memories that are attached with these games, are the ones that I picked. And so with that, the last game on this list, I'm gonna put League of Legends as a whole, but also very specifically the Teamfight Tactics version of that game. Now, before you go down in the comments, I am not a League of Legends person. I am not a League of Legends player. It honestly scares me sometimes. But before we get into kind of why I put League of Legends as a whole, let me talk about TFT or Teamfight Tactics. So growing up being a Nintendo fanboy, I didn't really PC game all that much. Like, I think the first PC game that I played was probably Club Penguin or like Webkinz. And when Tori was starting in her content creation journey, she of course was playing more PC games, and so she told me about TFT. And like probably most of you, I had the same reaction. I was like, ooh, League? That's a lot. That's not really like the cozy gaming space that I'm wanting to get into more. But since it's definitely more niche than the other games that I've mentioned here, TFT, if you can think about like Dota or an auto chess game, it's really just a game where you buy your champions and they kind of fight for you in an automated version of the fight. There's also a whole bunch of strategy, a whole bunch of gameplay mechanics to learn and understand, and honestly, it's a lot when you're first getting into it, but it's one with such like a unique and beautiful and also kind of just cute art aesthetic that it really drew me in because of those things. But then it also is one of those games that lets me be competitive, lets me be strategic, and not just kind of play a cozy game. So I always find myself going back to it, or literally just getting on when I have like 30 minutes, because the games don't really take too long. And whether I'm playing with Tori, playing with other friends, or just playing by myself, it's really nice to kind of sit back, relax, let all my champions do the work, and have a nice cozier time than actual League. So then, the reason that I did put League on here as just a umbrella term for my last game are because of the experiences and the memories that are associated with anything from the League IP. From playing a regular League with Tori and her coaching me the best that she can while I die over and over, from learning and loving TFT to even the Arcane series on Netflix. If you didn't know, that's actually based on League of Legends. And kind of the biggest and most memorable experience that I've had because of League is when Tori and I traveled to San Francisco to watch the League of Legends World Tournament. Not only was it so much fun to go to San Francisco just by itself, but I feel like the World's Tournament is the first time that I've really been surrounded by people who just love video games, who love talking about video games, buying stuff from video games, just everything gaming. It just felt like such a comforting space. And obviously I found those spaces online and in content creation and everything else, but to just be physically all there was such an amazing and honestly super fun experience. Alrighty friends, we made it to the end. You made it all the way to the end of the video. I appreciate you. And now, because you're getting to know me a little bit better, I also want to get to know y'all a little bit better. So please tell me any games on this list that you've played that you've loved, or if there's ones that are on your list that I missed, please let me know too. And until next time, I'll see you soon, cozy friends.